It's heartbreak for FC Barcelona as their UEFA Champions League journey comes to an end. Despite a 2-1 win over Atlético Madrid, losing 3-2 on aggregate. But this wasn't a collapse, this was a fight. Barcelona came out flying. Just 4 minutes in, Lamine Yamal opened the scoring with a moment of pure brilliance. Then, in the 24th minute, Ferran Torres doubled the lead with a beautifully taken goal, putting Barcelona in control of the tie. But just when it looked like they had it, Ademola Lookman struck for Atlético, swinging the momentum and handing them the aggregate advantage. Despite the exit, Barcelona showed courage, intensity, and real quality. Huge performances from Dani Olmo, Yamal, Torres, and others. Now, all focus shifts to La Liga. So, how did this tactical battle unfold? Hansi Flick set Barcelona up in a 4-2-3-1, with Gavi and Pedri operating as the double pivot, while Diego Simeone stuck to his trusted 4-4-2 system for Atlético Madrid. On the part of Diego Simeone, this was a much more proactive performance than many would expect from Atlético Madrid. While they only had 29% possession, their approach was not purely reactive. Instead, it was calculated, choosing the right moments to step out, engage, and attack FC Barcelona more directly. This is reflected in the fact that both sides finished with 15 shots, with Atlético registering 5 on target, showing they were just as threatening despite seeing less of the ball. In deeper phases of possession, Atlético were very structured in their build-up. Koke played a crucial role here, repeatedly dropping into the defensive line to form a back three during the first phase. This allowed Clément Lenglet and Robin Lenormand to split extremely wide, stretching Barcelona's first line of pressure horizontally and creating larger passing lanes through the central areas. This single movement had multiple tactical effects. First, it created numerical superiority in the first phase, helping Atlético bypass Barcelona's initial press. Secondly, it pushed the fullbacks, Matteo Ruggeri and Nahuel Molina, much higher up the pitch, almost forming a line with the midfield. However, unlike inverted fullbacks, they remained wide, pinning Barcelona's wide players and stretching the pitch laterally. Higher up the field, Ademola Lookman and Giuliano Simeone held extremely advanced and wide positions. This was key because it forced Barcelona's defensive line to constantly make a decision, either stay compact centrally or spread out to deal with the width. At the same time, Antoine Griezmann and Julian Alvarez operated in a more hybrid role. Instead of staying high, they frequently dropped into midfield zones, especially in the half spaces. This created a very deliberate vertical stretching mechanism. The front two dropping deeper would drag Barcelona's center backs or holding midfielders out of position, while the wide players remained high to exploit the space created in behind. It's a classic Simeone manipulation: compress centrally, then explode into wide or depth spaces. Out of possession, however, Barcelona tried to completely disrupt this structure through an aggressive, man-oriented press under Hansi Flick. Rather than maintaining a zonal block, they went player for player across the pitch. Lamine Yamal jumped onto Ruggeri, while Ferran Torres pressed Lenglet aggressively, often curving his run to block the passing lane inside. Dani Olmo stepped onto Koke, preventing him from turning and dictating play. Fermin Lopez tracked Lenormand tightly, while either Pedri or João Cancelo would jump wide to press Molina, depending on the side of the ball. Gavi was tasked with tracking Marcos Llorente, ensuring Atlético couldn't progress easily through midfield. The pressing triggers were very clear. Any backward pass, any heavy touch, or any pass into a wide center back would immediately activate multiple Barcelona players collapsing onto the ball carrier. The aim was not just to win the ball, but to win it in advanced areas where Atlético's defensive structure was still expanding. And this approach paid off. For Barcelona's goal, you see a perfect example of coordinated pressing. As Lenglet receives possession, Ferran immediately closes him down from the front, while Yamal jumps to cut off the wide outlet. At the same time, Olmo is sprinting in to block the central passing lane. With all options cut off, Lenglet is forced into a rushed decision. His attempted pass back to the goalkeeper lacks precision, gets intercepted, and within seconds, Barcelona transition from pressing to finishing, Yamal capitalizing after a quick combination with Ferran. However, this same man-to-man intensity also created structural vulnerabilities. Because each player was tightly locked onto an opponent, any successful movement or quick combination from Atlético could disorganize the entire defensive shape. And this is exactly what happened in the build-up to their goal. Atlético baited the press by circulating the ball slowly at first, inviting Barcelona to fully commit. Once Barcelona stepped high and compact, Atlético used quick, sharp passing combinations, often 1 or 2 touches, to escape pressure centrally. This sudden acceleration broke multiple pressing lines at once. As Barcelona players were dragged out of their natural positions, large spaces began to appear, especially in the wide channels. The ball was then quickly switched into these areas, finding Marcos Llorente in space. With time to look up, he delivered a perfectly weighted pass into the channel, exploiting the disorganized defensive line. Ademola Lookman, already positioned high, made a well-timed run in behind and finished clinically. This moment perfectly highlights the double-edged nature of Barcelona's pressing approach, devastating when it works, but highly vulnerable when beaten. When FC Barcelona were in possession, their structure was very fluid, but clearly organized to control both central and wide zones. They built from the back using a back three, with Jules Koundé, Eric Garcia, and Gerard Martin forming the first line. A key feature of this build-up was the role of João Cancelo, who pushed very high on the left flank, almost operating as a winger. His positioning was crucial, as he held the width and pinned Atlético's defensive line, preventing them from staying compact centrally. This movement had a direct impact on the positioning of Fermín López, who was able to drift into the left half space, occupying the pocket between Atlético's midfield and defensive lines. On the opposite side, Dani Olmo held the right half space, while Lamine Yamal stayed wide on the right, stretching the pitch horizontally. Behind them, Gavi and Pedri operated as the double pivot, offering both stability and progression. Altogether, this transformed Barcelona's initial 4-2-3-1 into a very aggressive 3-2-4-1 shape in possession, designed to overload the final third with 5 attacking players. On the other side, Atlético Madrid, under Diego Simeone, adopted a much more compact defensive approach. Rather than pressing high, they dropped into a deep 5-4-1 block. The intention here was clear: protect central spaces while also having enough width in the defensive line to deal with Barcelona's wide threats. By forming a back five, Atlético could match Barcelona's front line numerically, while the midfield four stayed compact to block passing lanes into the half spaces. This made central progression extremely difficult and forced Barcelona to be patient in their build-up. To break this structure, Barcelona relied heavily on the intelligence and positioning of their pivots, especially Pedri. Both Gavi and Pedri would occasionally drop deeper to receive the ball during the first phase, helping to create overloads and bypass Atlético's midfield line. Pedri, in particular, was the key orchestrator. He frequently dropped into deeper zones to receive under minimal pressure, before turning and playing progressive, line-breaking passes. His passing profile was very forward-thinking, often targeting wide areas, especially towards Yamal, or threading passes into the half spaces. As Barcelona progressed into the final third, their attacking focus shifted heavily towards the wings, particularly the right-hand side. Lamine Yamal became the primary outlet. Whenever he received the ball in isolation, his first instinct was to drive inward, either combining with Olmo in the half space or delivering crosses into central areas. What made this effective was the movement around him. Players from the half spaces, like Olmo and López, constantly made forward runs into the box, giving Yamal multiple passing options. This created a consistent pattern: wide isolation to inward movement to cut back or cross into central runners. Over time, this approach began to stretch Atlético's defensive block, pulling defenders out of position and creating gaps in the central areas. As a result, Barcelona were able to generate multiple chances through repeated entries into dangerous zones, particularly from crosses and cutbacks originating from Yamal's side. Despite the exit, FC Barcelona can take real positives from this performance. They showed courage, tactical discipline, and a clear attacking identity against a very organized Atlético Madrid side. And above all, this felt like another statement game from Lamine Yamal. His directness, creativity, and decision-making constantly caused problems and proved he's already one of Barcelona's most dangerous players. But credit must also go to Atletico Madrid. Under Diego Simeone, they showed resilience, tactical intelligence, and took their moments when it mattered most. Barcelona may be out of the Champions League, but performances like this show their future is very bright. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Did Barcelona deserve more, or did Atletico get it spot on? And I'll see you in the next tactical analysis.